some down the hall. Well, we can do minutes if we need to.
We are live?
We are live now.
Okay.
Starting right now.
remote.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Berube. I am chairperson of the Millis Finance Committee. Tonight is the 22nd of February, and this is essentially the first of our meetings to start review of the operating budgets for the town for fiscal year '24. We have presentations as shown in the agenda from the Building Department, the Board of Health, Animal Control, Oak Grove Farm Commission, and then some other business that is not necessarily related to the budget, the operating budget review. So we're still waiting for our first presenter, who I think will be
Here he
here
is.
in about 10 seconds. Yes,
You
you are.
are.
That's all right. Take your time. Without further ado, though, Mr. Giampetro, the Building Department Chair, or head, will get us started. So the mic is yours. Mike?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, Mike.
How are we doing today?
Well, thank you.
I'm here for another budget meeting. This is my 20th budget meeting. Whew. Time goes by fast. Okay. Put my glasses on.
So it looks like the Building Department budget is, let's see,
In
we
back of
found
the
it.
agenda.
Back of the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, great. Okay, super. So,
Yeah, so we'll give you a little recap of what's going on. Get back here. Okay, 2022. Just to recap what happened last year. We issued 1,368 permits. We collected $581,393. We did over 2,800 inspections, and the construction cost value was over 50 million. So we had a busy year last year, right? Did a lot of inspections, issued a lot of permits, collected a lot of money. Right, so, as you can see, we collected well over what operates our budget. And I've always kept the budget and our workforce lean, right? So, when we need another building inspector, instead of paying them as an employee with benefits, we pay them with a stipend. And we had gone over 2017, we changed everything to pay them per inspection, right? That was a benefit to the taxpayer, because we didn't have to put on another employee, right? And we use that to do a lot of our inspections, so, and it justifies $40 in inspection. That's why we have that line item for inspector compensation. Now, we just throw a guess in there on a number. So, to figure out what we got going on, how many inspections we'll need, how much money we'll need to cover it. And it fluctuates from year to year. Last year was very busy. Toll Brothers were probably a little bit more than 2/3 done, right? They got probably 2 more years over there, I would say, right? They're on phase 3. So we're over the onslaught of Toll Brothers building-wise. Right? Projects coming up. There's one on Main Street, Philaramo, 40Bs. 40Bs seems to be active. One's coming in next month at the ZBA on Main Street. Tom Roach has got a proposal. The old Butter Pigs restaurant has got a proposal coming forward as well. Bob Fox has got his subdivision, putting utilities in over there off of Ridge Street. Almost done with the road work and the utilities there. So I have a few other subdivisions that I don't know if they're ready to pull the trigger yet, but they're lining themselves up to either pull the trigger or watch the economy. So we're looking at an active 2023. Hopefully stays that way, but, you never know, right, in building, it goes up and down. Right? We've been riding this high of building for the past 10, 12 years anyway, which is good. So we get down to the budget. I assume everybody knows what the building department does, right? We issue building permits, wiring permits, plumbing
Right.
permits, gas permits. Okay. All right. 2024 requests. The total, $265,449.16. We look at the salaries, then you have that inspector compensation, that's just a number. We had 91,000 there and roughly around 90,000 in the past years, so drop it down to 85. Whatever's we don't use obviously goes back into the general fund. But that should hopefully cover it. I don't see any big major developments like Toll Brothers coming down the pike with that many units, unless we get a 40B obviously, right? And that's gonna take a good year and a half for it to get rolling. Right? Usually by the time they go through the process, and by the time they put a shovel in the ground, it's a good year, year and a half, so. If anything does come out, come to us as a surprise, we'll have another whole budget cycle to address it, right? Let's see, longevity stipends, supplies and expenses, I kept it the same, postage, same thing. I haven't increased anything, just keep it level. And a tally again is 265,449. Any questions?
Thanks, Mike. I don't see very many changes, so I doubt there will be very many questions, but I'm just curious. I think in the past, you had a capital request for some cabinets, some
Yeah.
drawing cabinets. Did those get funded?
Yep,
Okay.
they're all in,
Good.
they got funded, all the files are in, looks like a doctor's office now.
Great, I think. I think that's good.
And from what I hear is they're trying to push me to go into online permitting. So, I mean, I have my own reasons why I don't like it. You know, you don't have the one-on-one, right? I like people coming into the building department, you know, applying for a building permit. I can see you, talk to you, see what you need, I can help you, right? If you need help with something, we can get a permit together, the application, you need this, you need that. Online permitting, it's, you know, I know some guys who have it, right, building inspectors, they sit behind the computer and they say, oh, they forgot this, send the email, right? I mean, in my opinion, it slows it down. I mean, it may be good for like windows, doors, roofing, and siding, right, but,
Plumbing and heating, maybe?
plumbing, yeah, maybe plumbing, heating.
Except the inspector needs to pay one-on-one.
Yeah, you get most of the plumbers, they all know each other anyway,
Yeah.
right? But as far as building is concerned, you know, it's, you know, I like to see them come in, especially if somebody's new. Get an idea, get a gauge what they like, you know, see what I'm up against. And try to help them out, I like to try to help people get through the process. Of course, we want to make sure you do it, get a permit, do it right, right? So, one thing that is come down the pike through the state is the new energy code, which is a huge change in the future on how buildings are gonna be built, how much it's gonna cost to build buildings. The energy code is, it changes a lot of things. So it mandates a lot of more spending. Toll Brothers was in the other day, going over what the new energy code was, and they wanna do it because they're Toll Brothers, right? This is here's our building permit application, it's gonna cost roughly around $40,000 to $50,000 more, about 20%, to meet the new energy code, right? So I'm like, okay. So the mandates electrical vehicle charging stations in all garages, even if you wanna build a two-car garage attached to your existing house, you have to put an electrical vehicle charging station in.
Wow.
And that means that you have to have the power supply in your house. So if you have a 100 amp service, you know, it's a 50 amp line going out to the electrical vehicle charging station, and you gotta change your service. Even if you have a 200 amp service, you gotta do the total connection load, you know, it costs a lot of money for the homeowner. So there's a lot of changes in the energy code that were passed by our legislature, it's mandated, that became in effect January 1. And the state gave us about 7 days of education before it became effective. December 23rd, we had a Zoom meeting on the new, that came in January 1st. There's no concurrency period. They said it starts January 1st. So we had a lot of pushback on that, obviously.
Yeah.
Mandates, you gotta, even if you wanna renovate your own house, you gotta hire a HERS rater. Right? If you're over a certain square footage, right, then, you know, it just, makes it more complicated, costs more money,
More money.
and, we deal with it, because that's what we do. But that's why I like people come in, and I can explain it to them, say, look, you know, this is the new law, this is what you gotta do, this is what you have to have, sorry, don't get mad at me, okay? So,
One more for me. You have a couple of changes listed: remove a local inspector position, replaced with third deputy plumbing and gas, and then the other one listed below it for, it looks like a change of title. Can you
Yes.
just describe those very briefly?
Absolutely. We appointed a third plumbing inspector back in 2022, in the spring. I had a situation where the plumbing inspector went on vacation, and the other two plumbing inspectors were busy, they couldn't do any work for us, so I had to go out and get somebody to do inspections. So we put somebody on, and then we appointed him as a third plumbing inspector. Usually plumbers that are inspectors, they have their own business, right? And they do work during the day, and sometimes it's difficult to get them to do inspections. So I've always been, in, you know, you call for inspection, I'm gonna try to get an inspector there right away for you. So we put that third inspector, I took the local inspector's job, which, and the, we have to change the assistant building commissioner. That was a stipend position that Mr. Pelletier held. He moved on somewhere else. That has to be changed by statute, through the BOCC, Chapter 143. It has to be called the alternate building commissioner, right? And every city and town, especially small ones, has to have an alternate building commissioner, so to act, just in case, like when I got sick for 8 months, you know, the alternate came in and took over, right? So they have to be certified as an alternate, as a building commissioner. So I took the local inspector, which Bob Fogarty is, as of July 1st, and eliminated that stipend, his wording, put the plumbing inspector there for the same stipend money to keep him, and gonna move Mr. Fogarty up to the alternate building commissioner. So we'll get rid of the local, and so the plumbing inspector, we can have a third plumbing inspector, but the alternate building commissioner will take over that position,
Okay.
so we follow the regulations.
Ms. Boyardi?
Yeah, I just wanted, on your first page where you're explaining the personnel services and this department head salary, and then it says inspector compensation. Those are, what is the inspector compensation? That comes,
$40 an inspection.
that's the inspection that comes to the department.
Right, so when the inspector goes out and does the inspection, except for the salaried inspectors like myself, right, they go out and they do an inspection, they get $40 an inspection. So the plumber inspector, right now, Bob Fogarty, the local inspector, he goes and does an inspection, it's $40
Right.
an inspection.
So that goes to them. So you estimate, it was 85,000 for this past year? And you're
It
thinking
was-
it's gonna be
it
about
was-
85?
It was what, 91,000, right? 85,000? Yeah, so we just plugged the number in at 85,000 for this year.
So, because I was trying to do the math, and you said something about 2,800 inspections were done, and that came to 112,000, so that's why I was wondering.
Well, those include my inspections, which I don't get paid.
You don't get, gotcha, that's where the discrepancy, okay, thanks. And then that stipend, the stipends is for the,
The stipend is for the, being in the office, handling, coming in all the time.
okay,
Right? We need the one-on-one.
very
You gotta
good.
look at the permits, you gotta approve the permits.
And that goes to you, that goes to,
The wiring I do, I'm the chief wire inspector,
okay,
so, and then we have two deputy wire inspectors, so
okay,
I look at all the permits, I look at all the, make sure the licenses are right, and then dish out the inspectors to one of the, either Mike Mancini or Jen Sweet,
okay,
to physically go do the inspections.
I see,
And the plumbing, we have Timmy Costello, he's our plumbing inspector.
okay,
So he comes in and looks at all the plumbing permits, approves them, make sure the fee's right, make sure the licenses are the way they're supposed to be.
okay,
And then he goes out and does the inspections, and when he can't do the inspections, we have the alternates. Like, he's on vacation for the past 10 days, so we use the three of them to go out and do the inspections.
Mhm. Thank you very much for explaining that.
Yeah, no problem.
Any, Mr. Cronk?
You may have said it before, and I apologize if I didn't hear it. What did we receive for revenue for permit fees this year?
How much money?
Yes.
$581,393.34.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. It's a lot of money.
Not bad for a small town.
That's great.
Anybody on Zoom have any questions? I don't want to pass you by. Okay. Going once, going twice? Okay. Mr. Jim Petro, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody again.
Good to see you.
Good
to
start,
see
you
you.
got us off.
Good to be seen, not viewed, right?
Very true.
Okay, happy day.
All right.
Next up is Board of Health, and Mr. McVeigh is here to give us his budget presentation. Welcome.
Good evening,
Evening.
Finance Committee members. John McVeigh, and this is the public health nurse, Sarah Ward. If you want me to begin, our budget is relatively simple budget. You probably have the budget in front of you. So for personnel services, that really hasn't changed except for contractual increases that have occurred. For the expenses, there is only one line item that seems to have, we're asking for an increase, and that is the office supplies, and that is for the phone, because our PHEP grant, which is a public health emergency grant, has run out. That was for the cell phone, for my cell phone, and that was for $1,200 a year, and we're asking that line item to supplement that, or to be increased.
Okay. Can I just interject? Is there anything special about that phone? Does it have, alert capability in the events of an emergency? Is it any different than any other cell phone in town?
No, it's pretty much the same.
Okay.
It's run-of-the-mill. I think it's Verizon account, I'm pretty sure.
The reason I ask is that's probably about $100 a month, and not that that's going to save the town from any, impending budget shortfalls. But hopefully, the town does have a bulk plan contract where, we do get a discounted rate for having however many lines the town has, phones we have. So I'll follow up with Mr. Kaczynski or somebody else on that, just to see if we can get something better than $100 a month, which is, not outrageous compared, but it's higher than, than,
Well, yeah, let me add something to that. That does include a phone and a data package for the iPad that's used for,
okay.
off-site inspections and whatnot. So it's a combination,
Okay.
a phone and iPad, so.
All right. every little bit hopefully will help.
So, other than that, it's pretty much the same, except for, like I said, that increase and the salaries for contractual increases. Nothing's really changed. Any questions?
I have one. I guess my question is, were you operating off of any type of COVID, state or federal COVID aid and funding? And I assume that most of that has gone away and you will be back on, straight, your resources that you needed will come from the general fund, essentially. for FY
Yes,
'24.
we did have some funding from COVID. In particular, for the personnel area, we had a contracted nurse for contact tracing. And that is actually ongoing. We have her for another 6 months. So that's great. We extended that contract for the funds that were available. It did end in January, but they allowed us to extend the remaining funds 6 months. But that was, the bulk of the funds that we had personally for our department,
Okay.
so.
So that service would essentially go away, as would the funding, and if contract tracing were needed in the future, then that would be essentially an unfunded requirement.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody in Zoom?
I'm looking at the opioid litigation settlement. Could you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, actually, Sarah Ward would like to speak to that.
Thank you.
So I'm not sure if you're aware of the funds that the town received from the state for the opioid abatement. Essentially what that is a settlement was reached with, it was a national settlement, and the state received $525 million. 60% of that the state is keeping to fund their own activities, but 40% of them are being allocated to municipalities. And it's to be used, very specific requirements to use it in order for support people in treatment and recovery, opioid treatment, harm reduction, education. So the budget that we kind of had set so far, I don't know if you have that with you, the outline of the budget,
Looks like we do.
the description, okay.
Oh, yes.
So this was kind of put together by the health department, police, fire, and the social worker, just to outline how we think the funds would best be used by the town. I don't know if you have any questions about,
It says miscellaneous, 42.
oh, do you not have the actual description? I'm sorry.
It's behind, it's
Yeah,
on the next
it's behind.
page. The next
Oh,
page
okay.
after it.
Thank you. Oh, I see. Okay.
So the state, for the first year, we received $44,207, and we've outlined how we thought it would best be used. One of the biggest things was the social worker, Amy, thought that it was needed in the schools to have a therapist that could focus on opioid use disorders, supporting kids either with family members or who have their own use disorders. So that was a big bulk of the budget, just to support the schools, because I think prevention is one of the best things that we can do at this point. And then the Chris's Corner is a recovery center, so the money would go to them, and then if someone from the town of Millis would need any sort of services, it would be free of charge. It would come out of the account that was put aside for Millis residents.
How did they decide on the 42,000?
The 42,000.
How did the state decide that? I mean, you said we're receiving $42,000, so from the state, from the opioid funds, from the settlement. How did the state determine that specific amount for the town, our town? Was there a formula that they had for
I'm not sure of the
size?
exact formula. I think it's just based on size.
Mm, yeah.
If I could add.
Only if you can speak into a mic.
I can add to.
Amy might be able to also touch base on
Yeah.
that too.
Mr.
Amy,
Chairman-
we'll come right to you next.
Hi, Amy.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, when this process began, the attorneys that were working on this class action suit required documentation from every community as to certain number of medical calls, certain number of whether it be fatalities or calls or issues that the town had to deal with. They took that across the board with all the municipalities and came up with a formulaic equation to determine what percentage each town was going to be of the greater whole. And then the state determined how much of that broader piece they were going to take, because they're the state, they can do that.
Right.
And then the funds that they decided that could trickle down to the towns, the 40%, that was distributed based on those formulas.
And will that be yearly, or when does?
No, it'll be less than that per year. However, there are other class action suits currently ongoing. I don't want to steal your thunder if you were going to touch upon
No, that's
this,
okay.
but there are other class action suits ongoing against other pharmacies and retailers that will have additional funds coming down the road, hopefully within the next year or two. So there will be additional settlements coming forward. Those amounts are unknown at this point, but there will be some funding stream coming through that can fund some of these programs to help going forward.
Thank you.
Amy, I'm sorry, I don't know you, so would you please introduce yourself and if
Sure.
you have something to add?
I'm Amy Leone, the town social worker, and I'm sorry that I couldn't be there tonight. I have a sick child at home. But I was just gonna add a little bit that the settlements are gonna come through for the next 17 years. And most recently, coming in July, like the town administrator had just said, that there'll be more settlements coming through in July of 2023 that were just settled as well. So this is the first, some of the settlements wanted to pay out initially, like wanted to pay out whatever they owed to the towns from that within the first, few months or few years of it. So, but for the most part, it will go for the next 17 years.
Thank you.
I've got a follow-up question, and that is on the school resource, the top line, the 19,800, I assume that's, again, as you stated, for preventative, education, I assume, but I would ask you to go into a little bit more detail. $19,800 for 36 weeks. Is that, is that for the health class? They have somebody come in and give a lesson, present a lesson plan to the students as they have health class, or is that somebody that's on call, works with the nurse? Could you just
Yeah, so it
go
would
into a little
be
more detail?
it would be a therapist to have in the schools 1 or 2 days a week to work with anyone that was in need of extra support, whether it's identified by Amy. She does get calls and consults to go into the school, or the school nurse or the school counselor.
And I can just add a little bit more to that. Over the past year, since I've been doing this position as a school social worker, we've been seeing that there's more kids that, are either identifying with substance abuse problems or have family members. And so I'll be able to come in and do consults and kind of resource them to different treatment modalities or to different providers in the area. But this position was looking at having somebody be there at least 2 full days, however that's split up, however they decide with the schools. But to have somebody in there 2 full days to be able to provide that mental health and substance abuse counseling from a, individual perspective or even preventative or dealing with the family, across the age span, not just being in like the high school age, having it be across the board for the school age kids.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Stedman?
Is this the first year for this money coming to Millis? So this is new. I wonder why it's not part of the regular budget as a revenue item and an expense budget, as opposed to like the marijuana impact kind of off on the side, so we don't really see the big picture here.
Right.
So one of the things, I can kind of answer that. So one of the things that when they came down with the abatement and the rulings, they came up with a huge guideline package. And so it identifies all the different areas and interventions and goals for each different area so that these funds are specifically allocated for those reasons, you know, with the modalities of treatment and what's, you know, the different areas.
So it's the marijuana money is as well?
So it's very similar
Okay.
to that.
There are numerous line items in our budget that are specific and, for lack of a better term, fenced for specific uses, which this is consistent with those. You know, that's a discussion that we can have going forward. I don't know that, you know, I think we should anticipate that there will be questions, Mr. Gazinski, down the road on that, if it's appropriate to have it separate and not included in the budget, or whether it is included in the budget.
I guess my question is though, as far as it says the therapist for the schools. So this money is only for students, it's not for residents as well?
It is for residents as well.
Oh, okay, all right, because it says therapist schools.
Well, that would, one line item would be for the schools.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Garzon?
Thank you. Well, I think it's great that, you know, we have these resources and that we're trying to build up this program. As it pertains to the Recovery Resource Center that's in Milford, would these funds be available to be used for transportation for folks who may not have their own transportation to get to those resources in Milford?
So we do, and I'll answer what we've done in in the areas. So we have at Chris's Corner, they have a fund for transportation. So if people need that transportation, we'll use that, or we can also use like PT1 forms as well. So in some cases, we've used like Ubers and have an Uber account and can get them to and from, you know, from Millis to Milford if needed, or if they have a specific type of insurance, we'll be able to get that transportation for them. It does depend on the age, because obviously you're not putting a young kid in either the Uber or, you know, a PT1 form, but that we do have transportation and that would be available.
That's good to know, because as we know, public transportation options are very limited in Millis, and, you know, knowing that there's a treatment center available or recovery, you know, resources available, but outside the, you know, town, it's important that folks can actually get there.
And we have also continued to do it on a hybrid model so that people, if they couldn't get there, they can receive the mental health, the recovery coaching, and the groups also virtually if they needed to. Not ideal, but it is, you know, if people did need that, it is still available. We didn't change that.
Thank you.
Okay. We're peppering you with questions, which is good. Any more?
Making sure you're on your toes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Nice to see
Thank
you
you.
again.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, next up is the Animal Control Officer, and I believe it's Erin Mallette. If I pronounced that properly? Thank you. Welcome, nice to meet you.
Likewise. So, my budget is fairly simple and straightforward. I didn't make any adjustments really to the line items. I just kind of moved some of the funds from, around from where they were, like from the supplies and expenses to the propane, gas and heat, the equipment, and the gasoline. Just because I found other vendors cheaper, you know, so I can cut costs on the supplies and add them to, you know, cost of living increases, obviously, with gas and oil and such. So it's a total budget of $84,738.24. I have one part-time animal control officer that works weekends. And
I'm just going to interject, forgive me, please. I think we split your salary with Medway?
Correct.
Okay.
They pay
Just for
60.
those that don't know.
Yeah, they pay 60% now. It was 55, now they're paying 60. There's a higher call volume in Medway.
Okay.
So, yeah, other than that, there's really not too much.
Do they split the expense line as well under the same formula?
I believe so. I know that they've made adjustments at one point in time where it was the 55. I know that they just kind of took the whole total budget and split 55%, but they've changed it. I don't know if Mike can speak to that, but I know that they've changed the way that they're handling the,
We'll get to him.
yeah. I know that they've changed the way that they're handling the billing now, so I don't know if they're actually, if Lisa's taking like 60% of my supplies and expenses of what I'm actually spending, you know, and billing them that way.
Okay.
As far as salary and that way.
Forgive me again, do you operate out of two facilities? Is there a facility where, you place the animals and
Yep.
care for them, one in each town?
Yep, so the kennel is actually in Millis, and my office is in Medway.
Okay.
And which is shared, obviously, between, Medway Animals use the Millis facility. So it's just one kennel.
Dogs and cats?
Dogs and cats and whatever else I may pick up. And, yeah,
Do you
that's.
take kids?
No, I don't even have any of my own, so no. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions that I'm happy to answer?
Mr. Chair?
Please.
My name is Mike Corn, I'm new to the committee. Been in town for a few years, so could you just explain to me, like, your week to week? What does it involve in terms of your, what you do?
Sure. So my job is to enforce local and state laws. On a daily basis, I clean the kennel on a daily basis. I do some enforcement, like I head up to Oak Grove and see what's going on over there. I work with some farms in the community too, like trying to do some outreach. I'm also a licensed wildlife rehabilitator, so I find that majority, believe it or not, of my calls are wildlife related. So I've started a Facebook page for Millis Medway Animal Control, so I put out a lot of educational posts. I find that, education is a big thing. Last year I did, at the Millis Public Library, a educational wildlife type seminar for the residents. I also did one in Medway. So then it's just, depends on what the calls are. Sometimes it's, loose and roaming dogs, or it is any other kind of crazy animal, picking up deceased animals from roadways. We do get just a lot of basic general questions. I found a dead animal in my yard. How do I dispose of it? Just, just basic questions or whatever, assisting, the police department or the fire department, whatever they may need sometimes. So, it's really, every day is not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
How's your vehicle?
We're gonna need a new one soon.
Okay. Do you know if your vehicle is listed on the capital planning committee's, list of requirements? Is it projected for replacement, say, in 6 years from, in other words, this year?
No, I don't think so, so
Okay.
we're gonna have to get it on there, because
Okay. I would
it's,
recommend you touch base with, Mr. Kaczynski and the capital planning committee and just make sure that it's on there so it doesn't surprise anybody.
okay,
Not that if it were to go, were to die unexpectedly, that it wouldn't, something would have to happen.
Right.
But it's better to plan for that
okay,
and budget for it accordingly.
okay.
And maybe this is the right time to invite Mr. Kaczynski up, but how would that be replaced? I assume some formula, whether it be negotiated or separately or under the existing agreement, 60/40 or some sort of cost split.
Actually, you may have stumped me on that one, only because we haven't crossed that bridge since I've been here, but I would estimate that would be a similar shared cost between the two communities, whether it be the 60/40 or something else. we'd have a discussion with the town of Medway about that, but I would envision it would be some sort of shared burden on both communities to replace that vehicle.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yes.
Whether everybody agrees with that is a different story, but,
And just to note, both this department and the prior two that you met with have employees within the SEIU union, and that's something we're still in that's a contract we're still in negotiations on. I'm very hopeful that'll be wrapped up within the next couple of weeks, but you can expect those budget requests will be adjusted once that contract is ratified.
Okay.
So just want to let you know that for every department you meet, if they have SEIU employees, those numbers will be adjusted. I think that all of the contracts have been completed, all the union contracts, but in your books, those numbers haven't all been updated yet, so there'll be updates coming down the road for your books soon.
can you just take that thought an extra mile? And that is, so the contracts have been negotiated, agreed to, ratified, gone through that process. Perhaps the figures need to be updated. Is that for fiscal year '24, or is it retroactive to fiscal year '23?
It will be retroactive for FY '23 as well. And in the contracts that have been settled, the fire, the DPW, the police, that's basically a 2% COLA adjustment for FY '23. For FY '24, they get a little more complicated, and there's some adjustments. So, again, those numbers updated numbers will be coming out to you. I know it's something that the finance director and I are looking at to get those updated numbers to you as soon as possible.
Okay. And so for FY '23 personnel dollars, are those, so I assume that those are paid retroactively, and they come out of FY '23's budget, and they get paid
That's correct.
as a lump sum to the employee?
Yes, it'll be a retro lump sum. Once the contracts are ratified, those retro lump sums go out to the employees.
Okay. Thank you, sorry.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Crum?
In keeping with that, would that come out of free cash from last year, or did you anticipate it and budget appropriately for that?
We did have some appropriations that were put through that anticipated that. If for any reason those prior appropriations aren't sufficient to meet it, then that would be through free cash at the Springtown meeting to meet any deficits there.
But we'd have enough.
Yes.
She helped me out a couple of years ago.
Okay. Anybody on Zoom like to pose any questions, comments? None heard? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Aaron, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, you do a nice job.
Thank you.
I think you were up my neighborhood the other day with a dead turkey.
Oh, that was my assistant Kelly.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Did they ever figure out what happened there?
And it was Kelly with me with a raccoon.
Okay, Mr. McAvoy. Good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to just recuse myself. My husband's a commissioner.
I don't think we have your budget.
Yeah, we
We
do.
do.
It was clipped to the,
Yep, it's,
Okay, hold on.
it was clipped to the agenda. Here, you can use Kathy's.
Hold on. Sorry,
Here,
I'll use John's. Go ahead.
here.
No, go ahead. Thank you.
You will?
Is it pink on the front?
it's got one pink
Yeah,
column.
Sherbet color? Yeah. All right, go ahead. I'll be fine.
It was in the big
Budget
packet.
for the year,
I'll share this.
pretty basic.
I know.
I'm sure you all have copies of the budget and narrative to do passed out.
Yeah,
And we're seeking a level funded budget for the year, which is $6,000, that's all we have in our budget. And asking for an increase. And this budget covers 108 acres, which we take care of, athletic fields, playgrounds, gardens, parking lots, back trails. And just want to mention, we recently did the playground over. Well, thanks to everybody in town for passing the article. I think it came out nice. All the volunteers have pitched in, so. And there are many things that we continue to upgrade down there within our budget, so I think we're doing pretty good with what we have. A lot of the work we do by ourselves, we can physically do it right now, but some of the things we gotta get machines in there that we can't do ourselves, so we have to like hire things out, so that's some of the things we look for. And some of the things like, pretty soon the playground equipment, we just did that over, but we didn't touch the equipment, all the surroundings, the drainage was done, new wood chips. So we just have a little bit of money left over from that. So we're looking to keep that in a little maintenance budget, but we'll see where that goes, so.
It's been said that, I've heard it often said in Millis that, and not specific to Oak Grove, so please don't read into this, but that we don't do a good job of maintaining the things that we invest in. And I'm curious if the improvements that were made to the playground at Oak Grove, if that would require you to increase your operating budget so that, you know, there's a sustained, you can sustain it for longer before you need another larger improvement or investment in it.
It could, I'm gonna get an estimate how much the equipment's worth. I'm sure it's worth like $100,000 just for a quick estimate, all the playground equipment down there. But I just figured we did all the work this year, we spent all that money, so I don't think it's gonna need it for a couple of years, so.
Okay. All right. I would just, encourage all departments, if they've made an investment in something, that they ought to look at,
Right.
in addition to how do you make that investment last as long as it should, And again, I'm not talking specifically directing any of those
Right.
comments. We hear it all the time. You see it
No,
on
I'm
the
a big
forum, you
believer.
see it at town meeting, you hear it at town meeting.
Because I work for a municipality, so I am a big believer in maintaining things, and I just don't think people put enough money into maintaining budgets on certain things that they build. They build things and they don't maintain them.
Yep.
So that's the big problem, I
Okay.
see.
Okay. Any questions for Mr.
How much
McAvoy?
revenue did you take in 2023 for renting out your fields?
I think I'm
And how does that
probably-
look for next year?
I think it's the same right now. In fiscal '22, we had $5,897.
Okay.
In half this year, we got $2,975, so we're probably about $2,000 more. We only have like Miller Sock Club, Sparhawk Academy. In the high school, they do cross-country meets down there. Sometimes they play soccer games, so,
So, and then you use that for maintenance or whatever, that just,
that's right.
yeah,
So it's not much money. We don't charge them much money at all.
okay. And how's the, when are you gonna start the work on the trail refurbishment?
You're part of the conservation.
Yeah, but I wasn't at the last
Oh, you
meeting,
weren't
so
at
I'm
the
not
last
sure.
meeting. We finally got the approval. We
I know you got the
order of conditions, so as soon as we get some prices, we're gonna get going on that, so hopefully in the spring. We can't do it right now, it's kinda
Yeah,
wet down there, so everything's moving along. It took us a little time to get it all engineered, and the Concom walked through it, so we're working. Then we're gonna have a trail restoration project going down there. One of our members put some posts down there, which we all approved, and we're gonna have markers, we're gonna have trails color-coded out there, so we're working in the right direction.
Good.
It's a process, they call it,
Yeah.
it takes time.
that'll be a big improvement.
Yeah.
Well done.
So were there maintenance fees incorporated into the money that was granted for the playground?
No, there wasn't.
So I guess, is there any request for maintenance and
I'd like to request it, and I want to know the process of requesting leftover money, so.
I'm not sure how you would do that. But
It's really just to update the spreadsheet to show it, and then select board, as well as this body and others would,
Okay.
they would, depending on which pot it comes out of, if there's a revolving fund, if it's general fund, if it's from your own revenue, which likely would be a revolving fund, then.
Well, it was an article that money came out of. It was
So-
passed at town meeting.
That's capital, not necessarily operating budget, so.
So,
So this is the process to, if there's an adjustment that's needed, you know, you can advocate for it, and, you know, if you get buy-in from the select board, they can make an adjustment to the budget. You know, the budget is essentially theirs to present via the warrant. And this committee will make recommendations on that budget.
Okay.
So, I would say the process is, you're going through it right now. If you
Yeah,
feel like,
What we'd like to do, keep that money that we have just for the playground itself, not to use any other parts of Oak Grove Farm. Because the playground is expensive. We just bought, they call them cable cords where the kids step up. They were $50 a piece just for one. There's gotta be 20 of them down there. So we know that's gonna get expensive, and over time, it's gonna cost money, and the wood chips are gonna cost money to replenish, so,
Is there money left over from the money, that was awarded?
yes, it was.
How much money would you say is
There's
left
about
over?
$16,000 left.
So the
That-
recommendation would be to put that in a fund strictly for the playground?
Correct.
like, well, the warrant article was likely for something specific.
So it was for
And
the
it- and-
reconstruction of the playground?
And if
Right.
if the intent, if what we're talking about fits into that description, then the person that has the authority to exercise that money would say, sure. But if we're talking about maintenance down the road, that is
Can't use
not,
that
you
money
can't
for
use that
that.
money, no.
But like tomorrow, we don't know if part of the playground's gonna break, a piece is gonna break or something. Then we take it out of regular budget, or we take it out of the playground budget, so.
Yeah, all right, totally understand.
Okay.
It's, you know, it's-
tell us about what you want to do with the old softball field and why.
Oh, Dave Warner was supposed, he's coming in with me, he's been handling the marijuana funds. And it's been dormant since 2019, when softball was down there. And they don't play down there anymore. We charge a small fee for fields, and we made, there's probably like a deal. They take care of the field and we don't charge them fees, but since they moved out of there, the field has gone unused. And the field is all crab grass going in to stone dust and clay. So, and we're gonna have to shut down one of the top soccer fields this year because it's getting overused, and they don't have an extra practice place to play. So we wanna push them down there, just for this year, and that's only a practice field. And if we can grow grass down there, they can turn it into a small game field, since softball does not play down there anymore.
So that's what you're looking to do with this,
Yes,
this $8,200.
Correct.
And you're looking for that to be funded by the marijuana fund?
Correct. We've applied for marijuana funds before, and they've helped us out on a couple things. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember.
Okay. Any more questions?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Reyes?
Sorry, having problems with my mute. Yep, I have a couple of questions. My first one would be also concerning playground maintenance. And perhaps my understanding isn't correct, but I always thought that the playground budget would be separate from any type of town funded maintenance that would be received, and it was supposed to be done through private funds or fundraising or something like that. And that was the whole reason why the park became almost unusable, because there was no maintenance maintenance money to be able to be done with the park. So I had brought up last time when we were discussing the playground funds that maybe somebody would be able to look into down the road, like maybe doing some more fundraising or figuring out how they can fund a maintenance fund, because I didn't believe that the park was a responsibility of the town to do, but maybe that's not, my understanding is incorrect.
Mr. Kaczynski, can you just kind of clarify for us and address the issue of where the budget comes from? I think there's a revolving fund. They generate revenue, so likely it either goes into the revolving fund or into the general fund.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe there is, but I would probably defer that to the finance director, who unfortunately couldn't be here this evening. So I can certainly speak with her and ask for her to give some further information about this at your next meeting. But it's a good question, and there's always, I think, some gray area as far as field maintenance and field construction, and the, private and public use of those fields. So it's certainly worth taking a good look at, and it's a legitimate question.
Of course.
Oh, I meant just the playground itself, separate from the fields, like from
Playground.
the playground, sorry, that's what I meant, the playground fund, maintenance fund. My understanding was it should not be maintained by the town funds, it would be separate.
Yeah, I don't know if historically, there's been any, prior to this project, I don't know if there was, regular town funds used for that. I don't know
Yes,
if you.
there was, because used to be private, and the playground committee gave it over to Oak Grove a while back. So we've been using.
Okay, that's
town
what, yeah,
funds.
that's my question. Okay.
So I'll seek clarification, and we'll put this on the agenda for next week, Deirdre. And we'll try to forward the questions this week to Ms. Johnston, just so she's prepared to have a little discussion on it.
Could you just report what the questions are, Mr. Chair?
We're just going to, in general, I would say it's very open-ended, clarify the entity of Oak Grove, whether how their budget is derived, and whether there's a distinction between the playground and the fields, et cetera. I think Carol can,
You just said that they turned over to the town. Thank you.
Yep,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have one more question.
go ahead.
As far as the repurposing of the softball field for the practice field, I know you said you're going to be doing that for just this year for use as a practice field, just because the top field is going to be under construction.
Correct.
I didn't know, would you be able to get more uses out of it just in this 1 year after repurposing this? Would you be using it as a second field always now after this?
Yes, we would.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions? Scott?
Fusey 411 Union. I just want to thank the Oak Grove Farm Commissions, John McAvoy, and Steve McGinnis. They're always up there working. I think that land was bought in '84. It's been an asset for the town. If anyone's walked the trails, they're doing a lot of tree cutting, a lot of work the trails are going to get done. It's really just a nice addition to the town that I think we really need to maintain and take care of, and I think they work really hard to do it. They got new tables up there now to sit in. So it's really nice, it's just, it's really, people seem to like it, notice it, new signage now, so thank you to the Oak Grove Farm Commission and everybody that works hard up there. It's all volunteers. People go up there, they do the work, so that should be noticed, so thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay,
Thank you, Scott.
thank you very much, Mr.
Okay,
McAvoy.
thank you.
Mr. Kaczynski, are you prepared to speak for Mr. McKay?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. So does everyone have a copy of the reserve fund request?
Yes,
So
it's the other side of that sheet.
Okay, that's it.
the traffic cabinet that's located at Main Street and Millstone Road is about 20 years old. It's owned by the town, and we're having pretty consistent problems with the cabinet malfunctioning, not working properly, so the traffic light malfunctioning, and it has to be reset by the company on a regular basis. The company's reviewed it and basically said that the cabinet is well beyond its useful life and needs to be replaced. Certainly, this particular situation presents somewhat of a safety concern, because if the lights were to not function properly at a busy time of day, it could cause some confusion, and as a concern, it could cause an accident. So because of that unforeseen and urgent related issue, this issue has been discussed with the Select Board, and obviously the Director of Public Works, and we're requesting a transfer from the reserve fund of $21,427 to be able to replace that cabinet immediately. Certainly, I know this is a fairly large portion of your reserve fund, but we are only about 2 months away from the town meeting. So certainly, if the reserve fund has additional requests in the next couple of months, then we could at town meeting ask for funds to be put back into the reserve fund. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have. Again, we see it as a safety concern, and that's the urgent nature of it.
So I will begin because I've always been a stickler for reserve fund requests in the sense that they're supposed to be for emergency needs. I guess urgent is close, we're on the fringes, but when we say that the company's been out and they say it's well beyond its useful life, it kind of goes back to the previous point that we need to maintain these things. And I don't expect that the capital planning committee process of us identifying all of our assets and when they should be replaced is going to be 100%. So I'm reluctant to say, take, nearly half of the reserve fund for this requirement. But I will likely vote in support of this, even though, again, it's something that's beyond its useful life should have been planned for replacement. It should be part of our schedule to replace capital equipment, and this qualifies as capital equipment, so.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the one thing I would add is that even though, that was the comment of the company, there are times where these pieces of equipment do last much longer than that. So it did come on rather sudden, and when we checked with the company, they had indicated that it wasn't repairable. But certainly your point is well taken.
Okay. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Underhill?
I would ask Mr. Kaczynski do we have a contract with this vendor? Have we received multiple bids for this repair? Because when it's an emergency, the price goes up, right?
Yeah, I believe that, I'll confirm that, but I believe that this is a company we regularly do business with. So I can confirm that with the DPW director, but I believe this is a pretty standard type price, but I'd be happy to check back on that.
Thank you.
Well, it's not even a repair, it's a remove and replace.
Right.
Right.
So it almost doesn't, well, it's relevant.
Yeah, I've been stuck at that light when it's been flashing, and it is a problem. And as a side, my last position, I ran the company that made traffic cabinets. We made the cabinets, not the electronics inside, but that's a P44, and most of Massachusetts had peak controllers. Peak is essentially out of business. And as you know, with anything electronic, technology has changed in 20 years. As Mike said, these things can last for 30, 40 years, but the technology is old, and I'd be surprised if it could be replaced.
I'd be surprised if it can be repaired, it's probably
Proprietary,
proprietary
yeah,
and analog.
that's what I meant, repaired, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
peak is long
reluctantly
out of
gonna vote
business.
for it if it comes to a motion and if it goes to a vote. But unless there's any questions or comments, I'll take a motion.
It's Milliston Road, right? There's
Yeah.
no
Yes.
Millstone. Okay,
There's several
Yeah.
typos on this.
I know.
Yes, I forgot the
Yes.
inlay. I move we approve the replacement of the traffic cabinet at Main and Milliston for $21,427 from the emergency fund.
Second.
I'm just gonna
Reserve.
ask that you, just request that you amend your motion just to include that we are making a reserve fund transfer for that.
Okay,
That's
we're
that's
making a
the
reserve
key
fund
piece.
transfer for the replacement of the traffic cabinet at Main and Millston Road in the amount of $21,427.
Second.
Second, okay. It's been moved and seconded that the committee vote to approve a reserve fund transfer in the amount of $21,427 to replace the traffic signal control box and potentially some other assemblies at Main and Milliston. Discussion. None heard. Because we have members on Zoom, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Berube, aye. Ms. Garzon.
Aye.
Mr. Underhill.
Aye.
Ms. Boyardi.
Aye.
Mr. Cron.
Aye.
Mr. Lord's absent. Ms. McGinnis.
Aye.
Ms. Reyes.
Aye.
Mr. Stedman.
Aye.
Okay, vote passes 8-0 with one not participating. Deirdre, I will document this and we will sign.
Okay.
I have the original, Mr. Chairman, so I can.
No, you don't.
provide it. Oh, I have it, I have it. Okay. I have a colored copy, I suppose. A very good one.
I just didn't get Mike Crone's vote.
Aye.
Okay, so, okay.
So I have 8 members present. The amount approved is 21,427.00. This is all stuff Deirdre usually does behind the scenes. If you wouldn't please sign somewhere below there. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Kaczynski. And now, we could maybe 30 seconds and then we'll just give them a minute. I want to make sure we're all paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Deirdre, for our members on Zoom, do they need to sign?
No,
I have-
I'll just do a minutes
Okay.
vote.
Okay, I have
Just have a
five,
second.
I have 5 signatures, so I'll leave it on the cabinet when we leave tonight.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, super. Mr. Kaczynski, draft warrant discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have a draft warrant to present to you this evening, but I will give you a brief update. The Select Board at their last meeting voted to open the warrant for the spring annual town meeting. The warrant is scheduled to be closed next Monday at the Select Board's next meeting. I do expect to be able to at least provide you with a list of the articles that we have at your next meeting. Is the committee meeting next Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay, so I should be able to provide you at least a list of the ones we have. We do not have a great number of articles at this point beyond our standard articles.
You're not disappointing us.
But I will provide you with at least that list at your next meeting, and with whatever backup materials we have at that time. So,
Okay,
that's pretty much it.
okay. Any citizens petitions yet?
The town clerk has received one citizen's petition. I don't have the copy with me, but I believe it has to do with related to the installation of cell equipment in the community. And I believe the town clerk has a copy of it if anyone wants to take a look at it in the meantime, and I certainly can provide you with a copy for your next meeting.
No, I just, so Deirdre, if, once that's available, you and I just need to make sure that we include that in our meeting agenda, so that we have an opportunity to give the person or the petitioner an opportunity to present to this committee and, give them enough time to prepare.
Okay,
Okay.
so if I get the petitioned article from the town clerk, then I'll contact the person and get them to present? Is that
Yep, yep, and we'll just look at what and maybe this would be a good opportunity for, if you're prepared, if you're able to, let us know who who's on the docket for next week?
Right, so next week we have,
I think we might be done with mine.
so next week is, rec, library, and town clerk.
It's right here.
Town clerk,
Hi, Mike.
thanks.
We don't need you. Go. Are you done?
Okay, I don't know that you or, we'll talk this week, and I'll let you know if I need you or Carol to come in for next week. I don't
Okay.
think that we would, both, certainly not both of you, for rec, library, and town clerk. We do have that question for Carol regarding Oak Grove.
Yeah.
That
Either
can be
way-
answered in writing if she wants. She doesn't need to spend
Okay.
hours here to answer that, but
Very good. Either way, I can provide you with at least that list of warrant articles that we have, and I can email that to Deirdre so she can send it to the committee.
okay, all right.
Great. Well,
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
Kaczynski.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have some minutes to approve.
Mr. Chair, I vote that we approve the minutes in front of us
November 2nd?
of November 2nd.
Second?
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, the committee vote to approve the minutes of November 2nd. Please take a minute just to make sure that you were present before voting. Any discussion? Comments? I'll do a roll vote in the order that's listed in the minutes. Pete Berube, aye. Ms. Garzon?
Aye.
Mr. Underhill?
Aye.
Ms. Moriarty?
Aye.
Ms. McGinnis?
Aye.
Ms. Reyes?
Aye.
Mr. Stedman?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0 with Mr. Lohr not voting and Mr. Gatto no longer with us. Okay? Next. November 10th.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Garzon.
I move that we approve the minutes from November 10th as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to vote to approve the minutes from November 2nd. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays?
One abstention.
One abstention. Two abstentions. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. December 15th.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. McGinnis.
I make a motion that the Finance Committee approve the minutes of the meeting of their portion of the tri-board meeting held on December 15th, 2022.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the committee vote to approve the minutes from the tri-board held on the 15th of December. Any discussion? None heard. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. One abstention. Motion passes 7-0. Okay, terrific. And then listed is the upcoming meeting dates with the attendees. Thanks for providing that, Deirdre. These are, I would say, draft, but likely to proceed as listed. If we can move stuff to the left on the calendar, we will. Of note, the school department is on the 29th. I intend to invite them in prior to that, even if it's for an update on how they're doing. I don't know that they'll be in favor of that, but I think it's important not to wait until the 29th. So my intent would be to see if we can get them in before the 29th. Any other comments and questions or recommendations for the Finance Committee schedule?
Well, so, should I ask if they can come in on, March 15th?
Possibly. I'll do that myself, direct to Mr. Catalano.
Okay.
And then Capital Planning Committee, Deirdre, is that date something that you've coordinated with Mr. Barry?
I did. So he wasn't available on the 29th. He said he could have someone come up, you know, or someone else represent them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine.
but-
It's fine. I just want to make sure that he's aware. And Mr. Lohr is the, he's a voting member on that committee, so we should get updates. And that kind of brings me to a note that I was going to suggest relating to all of these dates, is that I'm going to, Deirdre, I'd like to make sure that we put on our agenda on a regular basis subcommittee report updates from the liaison, whether that be whether that be the official liaison or somebody that may have attended, say, a meeting where we have somebody attend. You know, they can give us a kind of a synopsis. I mean, there's no way any of us can attend all of the meetings that happen. Although several members do attend quite a few of them, I think we should tap into that and kind of hear what the salient issues are and so that we're prepared for it when it comes around to be our time. You know, when we get the presentation from those boards or committees. So we'll start doing that, and I would ask that you'd put that on the all future agendas.
Will do.
Okay?
Mr. Chair?
Ms.
I was
McGinnis?
wondering if there's, if you think it appropriate for sometimes to have more joint meetings. I'm saying it seems like the school committee has to spend an hour and a half to prepare for the select board and then for us. And is that something, has there ever been any thought to have a joint meeting on a presentation like that? Or is it not even allowed? I think, you know, I found from the tri-board meeting, there's good brainstorming when there's more than one special group involved, and especially when there's shared services discussion.
I don't know the answer to that. I certainly would ask, other people have opinions on it. Jody would be a great resource to opine on it, just because, she's been on the committee and has a wealth of experience. Maybe that discussion has come up in the past. I don't recall it. I think it has some merit. I just don't know what the impediments would be, or if there's something that would, some reason not to do that.
Well,
And I don't know how the school board, for instance, if we're talking about the school committee, how they would feel about it.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I think the biggest issue is scheduling. So would we then do a joint meeting of the Finance Committee and Select Board on one of their meeting days or on our meeting days? And I've certainly been an advocate for not doing the same thing twice and repeating the same information over. I definitely think it would be more efficient if we could do one presentation from the school committee with the two of our boards there. Particularly as questions come up that the select board may have, then the school committee comes in front of us, we say, well, why did you do it that way? And they say, well, that's the way that the select board wanted it. And so it gets kind of inefficient. So I am not aware of a reason why it can't be done. It's just a logistics issue more than anything.
I think I'm happy to ask and suggest it of the school committee. I think my thinking about listening to Jody and thinking about it, I would be happy to have presentations and limited Q&A. I don't think we should have discussion. I don't think we could have discussion in front of, say, the select board. Finance committee discussions and lead up to a vote. Now, generally, the bigger votes happen at the end of the process. But as you remember, last year, we had a lot of discussion on budget issues and we had a lot of presentations on budget issues or Council on Aging, where my attempt was to have the presentations and have the Q&A, but save our deliberate discussions leading up to a vote until, you know, until a following week, a subsequent week, where we would go through as many as we could, or where it made sense, where we felt like all of our questions were answered, or we weren't, you know, we got the best information we were gonna have. You're never gonna have all the information before you make a decision, but, you know, so I'm happy to ask the school board and the select board if there's presentations that they would like to have again, and then, as Ms. Garzon said, we ought to, it's gonna require some flexibility of somebody, whether it's us or them, you know, we'll see.
I think it's a great idea, though. It'd be nice.
The reason I bring that up, Mr. Chair, is because it seems like on the, thank you. The important issue on the school budget is the sped education, and everything stems from that. The school stated they're within 4% on, I think, everything except the sped, is what I understood. I might need clarification. So, you know, they do a beautiful PowerPoint presentation, and this, and the school stats and everything are very important. But if the select board are meeting on a Monday, and then the school is a Tuesday to have the final sped amount, then something should happen on Wednesday, and we never set a schedule for that. So maybe like the school presentation should be at that meeting on the Wednesday after those two meetings. Because then, I think it is like the 25th or something is when all of that is happening. The select board meeting is that Monday and the end of the month. But anyway, just prevent the school committee for showing up for two things and a repeat, because, anyway, that's enough said.
I think your idea.
It's a consideration.
I think your idea has merit, and I think there's merit to hearing the same thing that they hear. We're voting on their warrant, so we ought to be voting on what they hear, and we don't attend their meetings, not necessarily, you do.
No, I
and I
haven't been.
occasionally
It's
do,
not-
and Joyce occasionally does, but us as a committee, we don't. So that's why there's probably some synergy to be gained in hearing the same thing at the same time. Not that we would anybody would deliberately say it differently in front of us. Maybe they would, I don't know. But there's some merit to hearing it at the same time, at least the presentations, the Q&A, and then have our own discussion and come to a vote, a committee vote on it. So I will bring it up.
And let me
to
just
them.
add also that probably the most important meeting that we had was the tri-board meeting in the last year, was the one in December. And if anything could be done to have it recorded here. I know that they didn't like the setup of the way this is. We'll move these around, but it's got to be recorded, Mr. Chair. People, if they only knew what was discussed in December with the sped and the money that's going to be going out due to this unfunded increase and the no help that we're getting from our state representatives and telling us everybody to talk to the governor if they say it's okay. These type of meetings should almost be imperative, Mr. Chair, that you ask for them to be televised.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, the video of the tri-board was on the Finance Committee's website.
It is.
The following day, and it's on community media.
Which one, Deidre? The December one or the February one?
The February one, I just watched it
Okay.
February one, yeah.
yesterday.
Oh, were
Thank
we?
you, Deirdre. You're the one that's
Camera
posting
has 5
everything,
pounds.
and the townspeople appreciate just having to go to the Finance Committee website to get the answers.
Yep, I put it up as soon as I could.
Okay.
Are we, was there going to be any discussion about liaisons, or are we doing that next week? Remember we talked
As of right
briefly?
now, that's all I plan on talking about for liaisons. There's some that, most of them are encumbered with, the liaison positions officially are encumbered and on their cycle. There's no replacements coming due anytime soon. We informally, we talked about last time, last year, late last year, we talked about FinCom members taking a rotational, an informal attendance at, say, the select board meeting or the school board meeting. So given that those are usually Mondays and Tuesdays, I don't know that we need to have a sign up right now, but perhaps, well, maybe we should because we're in session right now. I think my recollection is that we were in favor of it as a group last, at one of our discussions. And so if that's still the case, then I'll be looking for volunteers essentially to attend one or two of those meetings, one or the other of the meetings, and we'll come up with a rotation where somebody can not represent us officially, but attend the meeting, take some personal notes, and then come back and, and share. If there's anything noteworthy, I'm certainly not looking for, a rundown of a 3-hour school committee meeting.
No?
No, not at all.
I put in my schedule Monday night and Tuesday night. Monday night's the select board and Tuesday night is the school committee. And of course, we're here Wednesday night. I've already put those 2 dates in my schedule, so I don't mind going to those 2 meetings and seeing what's what.
Okay. Well, that buys us a little time to have a volunteer for the following week, so.
Right.
Unless somebody else wants to attend one of those 2 meetings, we will accept your offering.
I'll just take a nap in the afternoon. No.
Mr. Chair, I was
Ms.
actually
Reyes.
planning on going to the school committee meeting as well this Tuesday.
Okay, that's great. And again, this does not restrict anybody from going up until there's a quorum. So,
Right.
and even if 5 of us show up, then stay away from one another, I guess. Because there's nothing that keeps you from attending. You just can't discuss it amongst each other, and there can't be a quorum where there's discussions going on, and nobody should be there opining on finance committee opinion or stance on an issue.
And you're not, don't introduce yourself as a member of finance, you're a resident on a street in Millis.
Yep, good point. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So that is all I had from my notes. Any last comments, questions?
I'll make a comment, sir.
Mr. Crum.
I just want to express my gratitude for being appointed to the FinCom. I'm looking forward to serving with all of you, especially the town. And I'm available if anyone needs me to assist in volunteering in meetings and things of that nature.
Babysitting or anything?
No.
No. Dog walking?
Don't push it. No, I have my own grandkids to babysit.
didn't
and
tell
I'm
them what
too
the
old to
newbie
do
does.
that, so.
Yeah, I apologize. I whiffed on the opportunity for us to have introductions at the start of the meeting. I'm out of practice, I guess, but nonetheless, welcome. We appreciate you as much as you appreciate being appointed.
And where does he
We
live?
appreciate you volunteering. Thank you very much, and, we'll put you to work. This is the budget cycle to dive right in, or the time for the fall town meeting, spring town meeting, where there's a lot of work to be done. So we appreciate it. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Does he want to tell us a little bit about how he ended up in this beautiful area?
Lived in Westwood for 37 years. My daughter moved here about 7, 8 years ago, has our 2 grandchildren. My wife and I were selling our house in Westwood. She said, "Why don't you live near us?" So we took her up on it, and we built a house 4 doors away from her. We've enjoyed, very much enjoyed the town of Millis. It's a lot like the town of Westwood, as I said earlier, a lot like the town of Westwood was 37 years ago when we moved there. It has all of those hometown attributes, and we've enjoyed it, and we continue to enjoy it, and we look forward to staying here, if God lets us, for the rest of our lives, so.
And you were on the finance committee in
I was
Westwood.
on the finance commission, I was on I was an assessor, on the assessors board for 23 years, FinCom for 5, long-range financial planning committee, all the good stuff over the years. Enjoyed serving the town of Westwood, and I'm looking forward to serving the town of Millis.
Thank you.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I will take a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.